Hello and welcome back. Photoshop is a little slow. I think there's a something going on with my system, so hopefully this will go okay. But thanks for joining me, and yeah, let's get started. So this is the third week of doing this. I think I'm getting a little bit better with the audio, and now I don't think you're gonna have to listen to so much of the keyboard. Last time it was pretty bad because I had the microphone picking up the tabletop pretty loud. But yeah, so we'll see how this goes. Yeah, Photoshop is pretty slow, so I hope that we'll be okay as far as being able to draw. Sometimes either when my hard disk is getting full, or yeah, various other things are going on, Photoshop can be a little fussy. So let's see how we're doing. Yeah, it's pretty slow. It's not reacting well at all. I just restarted, so I'm not sure what's causing that. So this might be a bit of a slow, maybe more talking than drawing at this point. And if it's too bad, then we will probably have to cut it short until I can figure out what's going on. But let's see here. Wow. Yep, I'm getting a bit of a delay. Oh boy. So hopefully that won't be too bad. So thanks for joining me. And hopefully we'll be getting started here. Oh, there we go. Okay. That seems to be okay. Right. Great. Well, October. Yeah, so October 10th. So Halloween. Halloween is coming up at the end of the month, and they do kind of celebrate Halloween in Japan. It's not a national holiday, but in the stores and you know, kind of everywhere you can see Halloween decorations and Halloween sweets. You know, the cake shops do Halloween, and Mr. Donut does, you know, jack-o'-lantern donuts. So it's a marketable holiday, I think, because it, you know, has a very fun foreign look. And yeah, so people do kind of celebrate it here. I think, you know, some schools are letting kids dress up in costumes, and there's a little bit more of that than there was in the past. But I think, like a lot of other countries, it's just the look of it. It's just the you know, the goods to sell, the kind of fall atmosphere. It's I think definitely America is much more fanatic about Halloween and costumes. And not to say Japan doesn't have a huge cosplay tradition or kind of group here. I think the thing that's interesting is there's a lot of cosplay in Japan, but when you see people dress up for Halloween, it's almost exclusively, I think, majority zombie. So Halloween is zombies in Japan. So you see a lot of zombie Mario and Luigi, or, you know, zombie idol singers or zombie cheerleaders. There's a lot of zombie variations of things. And I think in Shinjuku in Tokyo, they have a pretty large kind of gathering of people in costume, and so that's getting bigger and bigger. And yeah, so I think people, and it's more of a young adult holiday. I think Halloween parties are more of a drinking young adult, maybe like university age kind of thing. And some in Osaka, some of the foreigners, I think it's the JR line, the loop line that kind of runs around the city, dress up and just ride the train at night just to show off their costumes and disturb the locals. But yeah, that's as far as I know, that's about as far as it goes on this part, in this part of Japan. But yeah, I think it's, you know, it's getting more and more marketable, things that people are looking for things to do, and I think kids are getting involved. And once you have kids getting involved, I think that's when it becomes much more fun. I think trick-or-treating is the, you know, definitely the best part of it. I don't think sexy cheerleader zombies are really the you know, gonna sell anything. But yeah, it's the it's you know, similar to Christmas. They like the decorations, but it starts so quickly here. It comes out very early, so maybe in August you start seeing Halloween decorations. So by the end, by actual Halloween, by the end of October, I think people are already kind of burnt out and tired of it, and maybe they'll go to the party, their Halloween party or whatever, but it's not, I think they've had enough of the holiday by then. But yeah, and the candy isn't quite the same here. There's not, yeah, not such massive amounts of really, yeah, terrible candy here. Yeah, this Photoshop is running a little bit strange, so I'm getting quite a bit of a delay. So I'm sure you're getting a really big delay because this is streaming. But hopefully this is doable. Yeah, I'm getting some weird delay with this. But yeah, I won't obsess about the technical problems. That's not very interesting to listen to. But yeah, so the tradition, I mean, it does, the idea of the holiday fits okay into Japanese culture. They have a similar holiday that I believe happens in February every year that they call Setsubun. Setsubun is the, I don't know if you've ever seen kids throwing beans, dried beans at you know, people wearing ogre masks or at ogres. It's kind of this same basic idea as trick-or-treating, is that you're making the oni or the demons or the, you know, bad luck, bad spirits go away. So it's similar to the idea of Halloween, where the children are dressed as the monsters, the, you know, the bad luck, the demons, and they're coming to your house and asking for candy. So if you give them treats, there's no tricks. So, you know, to kind of make the bad luck go away. So the thinking is not too foreign or too difficult. I think people could understand, you know, kind of the reason for the tradition, but they already have, you know, a custom that fills that role. So I don't know how useful that is to them. So this is some funky, lumpy looking candy corn. And that's something that's hard to explain, is a lot of the traditional snacks and candies they just don't have here. And, you know, the American versions are pretty terrible. They're just sugar and wax and things. So even if you bring it over, usually people are not very impressed. It's not anything too amazing. So let's see. So we've got some candy corn. We've got a pumpkin. But yeah, I've done a few Halloween cartoons before, and I was just thinking maybe I should yeah, try some for this year. I don't have any big ideas, but yeah, it's fun to kind of remember. Yeah, so hopefully we'll see the holiday turn into something fun for kids and not just a drinking, you know, drinking holiday with an excuse to wear a silly costume. But yeah, so it's interesting, the, you know, cosplay, costume wearing tradition here, at least for, you know, kind of the nerdy pop culture kind of group, the comic book and animation fans, is it's pretty big and pretty established. So it's interesting to see how seriously a lot of people take it, how much money they spend, you know, money and time they spend doing that sort of thing. But, you know, dressing up for Halloween should be a very similar type of activity, or a similar type of, they should have similar motivation. But it's just, yeah, Halloween costumes here are much more casual and much more, you know, inexpensive, just kind of party party wear. So you don't see elaborate, amazing costumes the same way you would at a comic book show or a Comic-Con, you know, in the US or Japan. So they don't take it quite as seriously. And I guess, you know, because there's not that much competition, there's not, you're not going to make a career out of your Halloween costume, but you could out of, you know, being a cosplay model here. So it's a little different. It's a little, it's a little strange. So I think there's some attraction to the, you know, whatever it is that they see as a Halloween tradition, and also, you know, the setting, the kind of, you know, ghosts and ghouls and things, that kind of setting is fun, and there's a lot of cute goods and things that make their way over here. A lot of, you know, cute designs. So I think people like that. But the interesting thing is Japan. The fall, the autumn, isn't kind of the season of the dead, or the you know, the witching kind of season, the, you know, the season for ghost stories and things like it is in America. So August, so kind of like, you know, almost the middle of summer, so very hot, wet Japanese summer, is their kind of ghost story time. And they have a holiday where you visit the graves of your relatives, and you know, bring them home and then return them to their graves. So kind of similar to the Day of the Dead, to the kind of the Mexican Day of the Dead tradition. So they have that holiday in August. So that's the time of ghost stories, because you're thinking about the spirits and the you know, the people that in your family that aren't around anymore. And so that fills that kind of need. And also I've heard people say that it's good to tell ghost stories in the hot, wet Japanese summer, because, you know, being scared maybe makes you feel cold. You know, that chill, the chill of a ghost story is a much welcome relief to the hot stickiness of a Japanese you know, summer night. And so the ghost story kind of haunted holidays come in summer here. And Japanese ghosts, of course, you probably know, look a lot different from the idea of American ghosts. And because cremation is very standard here, there's not a lot of zombie, you know, there's not a big zombie tradition, but there is now. I mean, it's kind of been imported with the American Halloween. Yeah, so that's fun. That's interesting to see how they're trying to fit, you know, very, you know, marketable. They can sell a lot of goods and candies and costumes at this time. They can import those kinds of things, and it's appealing to people, but culturally it just doesn't quite fit. There's already holidays, there's already occasions that kind of fill that need, so it's not so important for the culture to have that, to, you know, have their kind of ghost story time. They already have that. They already have a tradition where, you know, you bring good luck to yourself, you make the bad luck go away. And so those roles that you know, the holiday plays in America are kind of already filled. But they like the looks, and I think that happens with Christmas too. Christmas is kind of imported into Japan, but it's not the same kind of family holiday. The New Year holiday is the huge family holiday here, so you have to go home or visit your parents for the New Year, and that's the big, you know, the whole country's got the day, you know, a couple days off, and you stay together with your family. And so Christmas doesn't quite have the role of a family holiday here, and it mostly becomes a romantic holiday for couples. So a Christmas dinner is usually a couple's dinner, maybe like, you know, unmarried couples, and it might be a good time to propose. It's maybe a, you know, romantic time to propose. So reservations at restaurants are pretty busy Christmas Day here, but and people do give Christmas presents, but it's not, you know, American style. It may be one gift from the family. It's not the, you know, room full of, you know, the Christmas tree eclipsing pile of presents that that American kids have gotten used to. It's usually, you know, kind of one Christmas gift, and Santa brought it, and I think they do have Santa costumes, you know, for like the father or uncle or somebody to wear. So there is the idea of Santa Claus, and I think some schools have the Christmas party, Christmas tradition. Even the, you know, not even Christian schools, just the typical Japanese school may have one of the teachers dress as Santa and have kind of a Christmas party, but it's, you know, it's non-religious. But yeah, so it's interesting the way those things are incorporated, and I think because of, you know, American pop culture, movies and television shows, they see these things. They see Christmas and Christmas dinner and Christmas trees and Halloween and trick-or-treating, and it's appealing because, you know, they've seen it as part of a foreign pop culture, and you know, still try to find a way to adapt it to, you know, find a use for it, find a way to sell it, you know, find a way to, you know, kind of market it to Japanese people. So yeah, so that's funny. It's interesting to see how all of those, you know, foreign traditions, and, you know, mostly the Americanized version, I think that's the thing that they mostly have access to, and it might even be, you know, the companies that are, you know, making the goods or designing the goods, they have access to them, so it helps them to you know, try to find out a way to sell that idea or to sell that holiday to just regular people here. The funniest, the most unusual kind of import story, and I'm probably going to have my dates wrong, I'm not going to remember the year, but there's a candy company, a chocolate company in Japan called Morozov, and I think originally in the 1930s, and so this might have been pre-war, they tried to import Valentine's Day into Japan and tried to explain, you know, the tradition, the reason, and to get men to buy chocolate for women in Japan. So, you know, the more gourmet, the more expensive boxed chocolates and things. And they started this tradition, and you know, kind of explained it, and really wanted men to do this, to participate in it. And what ended up happening is they had to give up, because even though maybe there was a lot of participation, men here would just buy the cheapest thing they could find, just as a very, you know, empty gesture, the cheapest kind of chocolate. And so this kind of, you know, higher end chocolate company wasn't making the kind of sales, it wasn't benefiting them in the way I think people were probably buying, you know, cheap grocery store, or I don't know if they had, they probably didn't have convenience stores, but, you know, cheaper little gifty chocolate that wasn't theirs, and men were not going to spend that money, not going to spend, you know, a lot of money on gourmet chocolate. So they gave up the idea of trying to market Valentine's Day to men, and it went away. And I think maybe in the 60s they brought it back, but they reversed it, and basically the tradition became women buy chocolate for men. And they found that women were, you know, much more concerned with the quality and the price of chocolate, and were much, you know, much better at making those decisions, so they sold a lot of chocolate. So Valentine's Day in Japan is the holiday where men receive chocolate from women, either, you know, female co-workers or family members or whatever. So men receive a lot of chocolate, and women are the ones giving the chocolate. And so to reciprocate, they created a holiday that followed in March, I think like March, middle of March, like 13th or 14th, which was White Day. So there's a White Day holiday in Japan, and originally, so that's the reciprocal holiday. So men now give something to women, and the name and the idea for White Day was kind of based on maybe marshmallow. Marshmallow would be a wonderful, you know, matching kind of pure, you know, cute, cute candy confection to give to women. So the same company, Morozov, was marketing marshmallows to women, and you know, marshmallows compared to expensive chocolate, marshmallows are a terrible and a cheap gift, but I think they were assuming that's all men were going to buy. And so women gave $30 boxes of chocolates to men, and men gave women $2 marshmallow treats the following month. So I don't think a lot of people were happy with that, but it kind of, you know, became a tradition from the maybe Showa era in Japan. And it's funny because recently there's still a lot of Valentine's Day. There's a lot of chocolate, and they have a lot of like pop-up stores, like very famous brands of chocolate, either from abroad or famous chocolatiers in Japan will come to the department stores and set up little pop-up counters, and so you can buy these famous chocolates and things for Valentine's Day. But so the lines are very long, and you see a lot of women doing this. But more recently, I would say maybe in the last 10 years, women are just happy to have these famous expensive chocolate brands, you know, available conveniently locally, and they are just buying them for themselves. So the idea that women are good customers and you know, will choose expensive chocolates for the men that they want to give chocolates to on Valentine's Day is kind of changing into, well, women are good shoppers, but they're buying this chocolate for themselves, and it's kind of defeating the purpose. I mean, they're still selling chocolate, so I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon. But now women are just buying chocolates for themselves, and they're giving up. It's becoming, you know, more and more meaningless, and they, you know, do less and less. Maybe your boss or, you know, somebody very important to you, your husband or whatever, you have to do the empty gesture of chocolate. So you buy him a small little cheap piece of chocolate, and you buy yourself the, you know, your favorite, darkest, most delicious, you know, chocolate you can find. And yeah, so I think that's funny as the holiday kind of evolves and you know, kind of society changes and the thinking changes. You see these really funny practices, you know, kind of happen, and you know, it's really hard to control. I don't think the people that you know, were first thinking about bringing Valentine's Day to Japan to help their chocolate sales, you know, realize the kind of you know, gender war or the, you know, the things that were going on in the country, and how, you know, bringing a kind of foreign holiday or foreign tradition was just going to kind of you know, highlight that, kind of emphasize, you know, the change in thinking and the change in connection between people, and the yeah, the politeness and yeah, tradition. I think you know, people want to be very traditional here and kind of uphold traditions that they think are important, but when they're imported tradition, I think there's a lot less emphasis on maintaining any sort of meaning or whatever. It's just the look of it, the you know, kind of the fun of it, and also the, you know, the kind of foreignness of it. I think to a certain extent Japanese people enjoy participating in foreign traditions because it's a feeling of being more of a global citizen, of you know, being educated, being well traveled, you know, knowing about these things. I think that still has a quite a bit of cachet. I think that's still pretty important to a lot of Japanese people. So being aware of and celebrating a foreign tradition in Japan is very fun, and maybe people will think, oh, well, you must have learned that, you know, during your time in New York or when you lived in Germany, or, you know. So I think you know, people enjoy participating in kind of foreign, fun, appealing things. But just like everything that comes to Japan, it becomes modified by the culture. So Japanese people change it, and it becomes their own. It's, you know, after a little while, it becomes unrecognizable to, I think, the, you know, the people, the originators of that tradition. And I think that happens a little bit in America too, but it's in a different way. It's just because of the, yeah, America homogenizes things in a different way, and I think it's more economics, and Japan just does it to kind of suit their taste and suit their sensibilities. And yeah, so that's interesting. And yeah, maybe go on too much more. I don't know how interesting that is, but yeah, so hello to everyone that's watching the stream. And yeah, so let's see here. So yeah, the differences in candy. Yeah, the American candy is just much, much sweeter, and American chocolate and everything has a crazy sweetness that I think is surprising. And of course, candy is a young people's game. I think in America, I think in Europe and that tradition in Japan, they've imported, I think, more of a European sensibility, and it's expensive. There's expensive, more delicious sweets here that are more for an adult taste. Of course, there's a lot of crazy, trashy, kids whistle candies and all kinds of gum and things, but there is also a lot of mature candy here. So I think filling your Halloween bag might end up being a little bit different here if trick-or-treating ever takes off. So more candy corn. Yeah, so I think I've drawn a lot of candy corn over the years in my cartoon, but to me it looks so much like Halloween, and it sticks in your teeth. Oh, yeah, let's see, how are we doing here? Not sure where this is going. And coffee. I think Photoshop seems to be behaving itself a little bit better. I don't know what was going on there. It was real stuttery just a little bit ago. So, seem to be in good shape. Wow. So, yeah. So yeah, occasionally, so like in December and October, I usually get stuck, doing Christmas cartoons and doing Halloween cartoons, because I think holidays there's a lot of depression in anything that's kind of an organized holiday, because an organized holiday means it involves a group, means it involves being social, and it means that someone is always going to get left out. And I think that there's a lot of humor in that, and there's a lot of sadness in that. So yeah, a lot of depression is always connected to holidays. And I think things like the end of the year, like Christmas, I think it's getting darker and colder, and I think people lose their will in a lot of those kind of situations. So holidays are always good fodder for my cartoon. And yeah, one year I did a collection of, I think for the entire month of December, I did a cartoon, a Christmas-based cartoon every day, and then collected a small book of them. And yeah, that was fun to do. And yeah, I don't think I've done it since. And you kind of, when you try to come up with 30 Christmas-related jokes, you can run out of steam after a little while. But yeah, but that was enjoyable. I think that's a fun thing to do and a fun gift to give. Yeah, but yeah, Halloween, it's a lot about yeah, a lot of the American tradition. So I don't think it would translate well. I think a lot of the humor in it would need to be, if I was going to translate it into another language, I think a lot of the humor would be lost. That's another thing where you're talking specifically about cultural things that only people in that culture yeah, really understand or really enjoy. But yeah, that's the thing. And I wonder, I mean, I don't currently have a really big motivation to kind of change my thinking about this cartoon. I think it's always going to remain kind of full of my nostalgia, full of my memories, and full of my culture. I don't think there's any way to really make it more global or contextualize it recontextualize it in a way that would be interesting for foreign readers. But at the same time, I think that makes it a little bit more of an interesting artifact for foreign people. Because if you start, getting some of these jokes, that means you're getting the culture, and you're getting English and American English specifically. So I think that's a, yeah, I think things should be what they are. Yeah, I think the few times that I've tried to, with my cartooning or anything, tried to aim at a market or aim at a specific audience or try to do something that I thought had broad appeal, I don't know how successful I was, because you kind of force the idea, and it's one of those things where you don't have a lot invested in it. You don't have, kind of a lot at stake. So your motivation and your kind of ability to keep producing, I think people that consume any kind of media detect or can sense when things just ring false, when things just aren't true. You're not invested in it. This isn't coming from your own personal experience, your own memories. This is not coming from anywhere deep. You're just trying to, do something sci-fi or do something for tweens, or you're aiming at a market that you don't really have any reason to be doing, other than you think there's money there or you think there's an audience there. And the few times that I've tried to do that, I've felt that I've been, it's felt very empty, and it's been a bit frustrating. And I think you have to find your audience. You don't aim at an audience. You don't kind of choose who you want to talk to. They kind of find you. You put your idea out there, you put your work out there, and it's going to resonate or not with someone. Like, there'll be types of people or groups of people that will be attracted to what you do, no matter what your skill level or your voice or where you're coming from. People will find that, and they will just, something will resonate, something will be familiar, or something will just click, and they'll enjoy it. They'll get your sense of humor. They'll be entertained or enjoy your drawing style or how you present things, and that just that creates that audience and that connection. And I think forcing that kind of thing is really tricky. I mean, you look at something like Rick and Morty. I mean, that's like resonating huge now with a lot of people, and they were doing that kind of humor, maybe not as complicated sci-fi big concepts like this more recent season, but they were doing that kind of humor for a long time, and maybe people were liking it, but it just took off. I think once it was just out there to enough people, it really got resonating with a lot of people. But it's interesting, you don't quite know who exactly that audience is. It seems to be a little bit of a contradictory audience at this point, and that's why they're having kind of the backlash that they may be having, the complaints about fan toxicity and things, is because there's certain ideas or things that people became attracted to with those characters or in those stories. The I'm smarter than anybody else kind of idea maybe is a little dangerous in this internet age, because I think we've got a whole internet full of people that think they're smarter than everyone else, and are going to correct your grammar and your dates and your spelling and everything else. And so yeah, maybe that's a little bit bad. And yeah, so in a way too, that's an interesting lesson about the kind of the negative side of the downside of becoming massively popular. I think the people that like something and originally are attracted to certain things, if you maintain a kind of smaller audience and people that are a little bit it's a little bit more of a closed, a walled garden or a closed space, and your fans are loyal, but it's not too big, it doesn't spread into anything too mainstream, then you avoid that kind of mass appeal that can lead to some pretty undesirable people latching onto what you're saying, and then I think ultimately turning on you. I think things that we've seen get really big, like I just keep thinking of things on Cartoon Network, but like Steven Universe or something. You see things get really popular, and then they'll do something or say something, or somebody involved with it will say something that some part of the fan base doesn't agree with, and then you just have people turning on you. And so I think that's a danger with kind of massively popular things. And I think, you know, the internet has a potential to generate those things, but hopefully a lot of that stuff just stays, you know, local within its kind of dedicated audience that's really enjoying it. And then, you know, once it becomes kind of bigger and commodified and sold and marketed by bigger companies, then yeah, you're always going to have that. You're always going to be dealing with that. And I think it's unfair that a lot of the creators are having to deal with a lot of that hate and just, you know, vitriol directly, or feel that they're responsible for it, because it is these large media companies pushing this stuff and promoting this stuff that's putting it in front of everybody's face and making money, but also attracting a lot of people that are identifying with it in weird ways. So, you know, I think the individual creators, even though they're responsible for the initial idea, they're not 100% responsible for how it's being put out there, or how people are picking it up, or, you know, how it's being pushed. And yeah, always I think people resent or are angry about successful things, you know, things that are making money, or just, you know, you see too much. I think people always will get angry about that, even if they don't legitimately have a you know, negative thought or negative reaction to the content itself. It's just the fact that it's popular, the fact that it's out there, may make people angry. You know, just it's the popular kid. You know, that show now is the popular kid in school, and nobody likes the popular kid for long. So yeah, I think it's an interesting thing, and I really like that low profile, dedicated, and I think a lot of people are benefiting and enjoying that. Those kind of fan bases are really nice and really wonderful and intimate and supportive. And that's why things like, you know, Patreon and even like Kickstarter and stuff exist, because you can have kind of a boutique type shop that makes a certain type of thing that appeals to a limited audience. But when people find that, they're so happy that, wow, this is for me. I really feel that it's not something that's being pushed on me. There's not a DJ telling me to like this song, or there's not a, you know, a television show, you know, telling me to buy a commercial, you know, telling me to buy this thing. So I think that's a really nice thing. And so people are able to enjoy and consume kind of very specific media now that idea just did not exist, because the sources of finding certain things were always big, you know, mainstream sources. So yeah, I think that's a really desirable thing to come out of it. And yeah, that's really hard, because that makes big mainstream things just more short-lived. And I think I think when we were talking about like 80s nostalgia and things that came up with the podcast, that we may just be in an age of these short lasting hits. Like things will just spike and become popular, but it will be very short term, and they will just kind of disappear before there's any sort of fan backlash or reaction. And things will just be, you know, so not people, but, you know, ideas and TV shows and things will have their 15 minutes. So the cycle of popularity will become more short-lived, and you know, these media companies that are putting things out are just going to have to kind of become more like the internet and just give everybody an opportunity to do something, and then just get it out of the way before it becomes a liability, or people, you know, find some problem with it and have a negative reaction. So it's very possible that these cycles of things being popular, you know, they're just like we don't have these long-lasting, you know, super pop stars anymore. We're going to not have any sort of long-lasting entertainment. Everything is going to be very short-lived and very yeah, these will just be little one-off and little flashes in the pan that people are excited by, and then it just goes away and they look for the next one. So yeah, and that might just be a vicious cycle that we've been kind of conditioned by the internet to to see things in that way. It's like, oh, this is new, this is nice. What else? What do you got now? Or what, what's next? And yeah, because we're starting to do that with, consumer goods, electronics, and appliances and things. So we'll do that with our entertainment too. It's just we need the newest thing to keep us connected. That's a really big version of bubblegum, like Bazooka Joe, that horrible wax paper wrapped gum with the comic in it. Oh, I don't even know if that still exists. I used to love the Bazooka Joe gum just because there was a comic in it. I didn't even care. Like the comic itself was just terrible. It was just nonsense for the most part. And but just the fact that there was a tiny comic inside that gum was so wonderful. I don't know why. I don't think I had any particular affinity for the character Bazooka Joe or anything, but yeah, that gum being in there. So it has it's folded on the side. Yeah, gum with a comic in it. That was amazing to me. Yeah, I guess value added for kids is always super exciting. You get a sticker. A sticker in your candy. Oh, that's a very Japanese thing too. They have bread and things here that have stickers in them. So there's a Pokemon bread that has some pretty nice, kind of vinyl stickers in one in each. And so because there's hundreds of Pokemon, there's hundreds of these stickers, so you can collect them. If you eat that same bread every morning for breakfast, you have hundreds of these stickers eventually. But yeah, that little pack-in kind of thing, like the toys and breakfast cereal, that was always an obsession. I think I made many choices about what I was going to eat for breakfast for a month just based on the toy that was going to be inside there. That's always a thing. But I wonder if that's still a thing. I think that all that's changed a little bit, and you've got parents groups getting more involved in the healthiness of snacks and cereals and kids food. So maybe it's not quite the same. I remember a while back there were kind of complaints about offering very desirable meals with fast food, very desirable toys or kind of premium toys with the fast food kids meal, and that people that wanted to collect these things, they would buy kids meals and throw the food in the trash just to have the ability to collect these toys. And so they eventually started eventually I think had to start selling them separately, because otherwise people would just waste the food, and probably throwing away the food is better than eating it. But I think yeah, for a while there people were a little bit worried about how disgustingly wasteful that made Americans look, is that they were buying fast food meals for little toys and throwing the toys away. Lots of candy. Yeah. So let's see, more Halloween. I just don't have the big idea. Halloween. Wow. But I do remember always there's the holiday themed paper cups, right? So if you're gonna have a party, you buy some cups have some Halloween design, and you buy some napkins, and you have some paper plates, and you have a Halloween themed party based on the patterns on your paper dishes. I think I drank out of a lot of Halloween themed paper cups when I was young. Yeah, let's see here. boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, that's still looking crazy. Yeah, it's surprisingly more difficult to talk and draw at the same time. I initially wanted to do this as a podcast, so I started just talking and drawing and recording, and the content of the podcast, I had to edit it down. I would like take 2 hours of drawing and talking and edit it down to maybe 30 minutes of usable content. It was really, really bad because when you're focused so much on drawing and not paying attention to actually saying something, it's a lot of yeah, ooh, and nobody wants to listen to that. That's very horrible and distracting. So trying to find a happy medium between being able to get some drawing done and having a really one-way kind of conversation is interesting. It's a difficult balance. I think it's much easier to play video games and talk than it is to actually draw and pay attention to what you're doing physically, than actually be focused on what you're doing. I think I'm drifting I'm drifting between doing a lot of drawing and not much talking into doing a lot of talking and not much drawing. So we'll see. I'll try to find a happy medium, and hopefully it'll be interesting to listen to and fun to watch. I think what I want to try to do, because I do end up doing over an hour when I'm drawing multiple cartoons, doing over an hour of streaming, so I want to try taking some of these streams and kind of speeding them up, doing like a speed draw, high time-lapse kind of high-speed version, and to see if it's interesting with just maybe some music or some very simple commentary or something over the top of a faster version of this drawing, because I think sometimes I'm moving pretty slow in Photoshop, and visually it's not going to be that interesting. If you don't want to listen to what I'm saying, I don't think I'm technically moving around in the software in a very interesting way. So maybe speeding it up will be make it a little more fun and a little more watchable if you just want to watch the cartoons get assembled. Yeah, and I guess since they've become digital, assembly is a good word for it. I think you get spoiled with digital because, hey, look, now I drew another candy. Yeah, it's very easy to duplicate things and to multiply things. So yeah, I guess I do tend to do that a bit more. You see multiple versions. Things I'll if I want to draw a stack of cookies, I'll draw 2 cookies and then kind of randomize and make a whole stack of them. So yeah, so some things do get lost in the digital version. I should be drawing that small, but yeah, I'm still not sure where I'm going with any of this. How about a candle? Yeah, that was the thing. I think the problem's probably been solved with tea lights, with the little tea lights and things that they have now, but I was always so confused as a child with jack-o'-lanterns. You would carve a pumpkin and then cut the lid open, scoop it out, carve a face on it, and then put a candle inside, but you couldn't put the lid back on, because if you put the lid back on, then the candle charred, the little pumpkin lid, and made it all black and disgusting and dried it out pretty fast. But I never quite understood why we were doing that if you couldn't put the lid back on, because it's not really a lantern without the lid on. You have a top sitting next to an open jack-o'-lantern. Okay, let's turn some of this off. Ooh, and some room here. Yeah. Candles in jack-o'-lanterns. Yeah, and that's the other thing that is kind of a turn-off now. There's so many people, I don't know, what they're doing, but spending ridiculous amounts of time and having very complicated tools and things that they're using to carve pumpkins. So you get these photorealistic backlit images, you know, very photographic images on pumpkins, and that kind of defeats the purpose. I don't know. It's gotten a little bit excessive. I guess just people are always upping the ante and trying to find something to do with all their free time, and they do things like the crazy pumpkins. So then you just see, you know, kind of like grocery store birthday cakes. They just are transferring images onto the fronts of pumpkins and punching them out and lighting them up. But yeah, every year it seems like a more and more complicated high-tech processes going into. I'm sure there are people with computer-controlled laser cutters that are creating their pumpkins every year. But it's a little excessive and a little silly. It's just fun to let kids do whatever they're going to do, just not put those knives through their hands. But yeah, it's a shame stuff gets co-opted, and I guess, you know, it's all the people that just don't want to let go of those childhood things, and so they continue doing them as adults and kind of apply their adult sensibilities and have to ruin everything. Yeah, that's why there's a toy collector's market and professional pumpkin carving and all this ridiculous stuff. What is this? Yeah, just people that don't want to grow up or hand off any of these traditions to a younger generation. That's a little bit upsetting. Kind of like this weird pumpkin. But yeah, that's always a weird thing. And of course the internet is the perfect showcase for all that kind of arrested development kind of nonsense. We have people doing extreme computer controlled holiday lighting schemes and all kinds of nonsense. Oh, that's terrible. But yeah. So, and it's interesting how much more socially acceptable all this arrested development is becoming. And I think that's mostly because it's incredibly marketable. You know, if you can sell things to these people that don't grow up, I think, you know, that's a pretty lucrative market. I'm not gonna, I might just have to change the angle of that. But yeah, I think it's a real silly situation. Okay, so where is this pumpkin? Ah, there. Yeah, I think we're in a really weird time, and it's almost like kids are going to have to move on to something else, something less childish, to be able to get any enjoyment out of their childhoods anymore, because the parents aren't letting go. I guess it's pretty similar to the you know, kind of the work situation here in Japan. They have so many ridiculously old people that are not going to retire, that are just occupying positions in companies that should be, you know, places where people are being promoted to, younger people, or not very young people, middle-aged people that are being promoted to, but there's people not retiring that are kind of creating this situation where there's no place, there's no up to go to, there's no where to get promoted to, because those positions are occupied. So you've got people, yeah, just kind of stuck in positions with nowhere to go, because people aren't gonna step down. They want to stay in control. All right, let's try some of this. Yeah, another thing that kind of did I do that right? That inspires a lot of cartoons is just a funny phrase. So I agonize a lot over the jokes, you know, the writing of the cartoon, because I like, you know, like things to sound a certain way and be written in a certain style. So something that can motivate me is just the sound of a certain phrase. And the thing that kind of popped into my head when I'm talking about I don't even know how to spell this. Singe. Lid singeing. A phrase that kind of popped into my head when I was talking about the jack-o'-lanterns, putting a candle in a jack-o'-lantern, was the burnt lid. So lid singeing. Singeing. Even spell check is going to be able to help me there. Oh, I think. Oh yeah, okay. I sing. Oh, so spell this exactly like sing. Singeing. Oh, that's a Norwegian spelling of sing. Singe. Oh, there we go. There we are. Oh my gosh. I don't even know if that would have worked. Yeah. Singeing. Maintain that silent E, or you've got singing. All right. Okay. Lid singeing. Yeah, so that phrase just stuck into my head, and so that's why I'm trying to come up with a way to do this. So that's what happens a lot, is just a funny phrase or words that sound so odd together will kind of create the joke. Yeah, so, you know, kind of coming up with a really clumsy or a real funny sounding phrase. You'll see that a lot in this cartoon, that I'll just have something that amuses me as far as that sounds really funny, and that creates the joke. Oh, that's a giant wick. But lid singeing. I'm gonna ignore the existence of tea lights and just have candlesticks. Yeah, so I guess that's where we're going with this one. Right, so we've got and our big old pumpkin. All right, I guess I'm putting a face on this jack-o'-lantern. Oh, let's see here. Yes, so, wow, we're already an hour in, and we're yet to finish the first cartoon. This is brutal. Yeah, I think this is the drawing and talking problem. So, let's put a face on our pumpkin. Let's try this. All right. Yeah, I think I like that better. Maybe we'll just go with that. And then, wow. Hmm. Can play around the balance of that. Oh, but I think the thing I think the thing that I wanted to do most is a sad face on the jack-o'-lantern as well. All right. I think that works. Oh, sorry, that's all on one layer. I think that works. Okay. Yeah, I still remember. I still remember. I think it was a San Diego Comic-Con, and someone was at my table and was reading the cartoons, and they liked the cartoons, and that that they laughed at a few, and then they said to me, "I'm so glad you are drawing this cartoon without having to put little faces on everything. You're making some little drama or some little humor out of something." And I guess he completely missed the two dots and a line, very minimal faces on the cartoons, and then he noticed it and embarrassedly walked away. But yeah, that was very funny. He went into this whole thing about, this is great. I like how you're just drawing objects and you don't have to put little faces on them to give them personality. And of course, that's exactly what I was doing. But yeah, that made me laugh. Okay, so let's get at least one finished. A little more red. Yeah, that's something that I definitely miss, is pumpkin carving and pumpkin seeds and all that good stuff this time of year. Oh, what am I doing? I always do this. Get all excited about coloring and then start coloring on the wrong layer. But yeah, that's something to definitely miss, is all that seasonal goodness. Yeah, they have pumpkin there. Of course there is a Japanese pumpkin. It's kind of small and tender and sweet. So there's a lot of pumpkin in food here, but it's not, a carvable size. And I don't think I've ever had the seeds from a Japanese pumpkin. I'm curious about what that would be like. And it may have just tiny, seeds like a gourd that aren't very edible, but wow. Toasted pumpkin seeds sure sound good this time of year. Oh, let's try that. Sure. And then that nice, weird pumpkin meat color. A little more yellow. Wow. Yeah, that's something very confusing for Japanese people when you explain to them, yeah, you can eat American pumpkin, but we usually just carve faces on them and watch them rot, and their lids get singed. Okay, so here's the whole of this. Let's try brush. Get that expert singe I got going. All right, I think. I think I might need some of this color. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, so the smell and the tradition of pumpkins, that's American pumpkins, haven't any of that for a long time. Oh. Yeah, that has to be an interesting, there's definitely people that have studied that, but there has to be a really interesting thing is in American culture, and as people, assimilated themselves to being American, but brought their traditions with them from other countries, like, how they adapted them, or how, I guess if you had a strong community with a strong identity, and we're still kind of connected to other people, with a language or a religion, that it would be easier to kind of keep some of these things, in more of their original context. But there has to be, kind of interesting ways you can watch things slowly either, become part of American popular culture, or just kind of, lose their practice, just not get practiced anymore. Yeah, there's got to be a lot of that, especially in America, because you had so many, different peoples with different kind of folk or traditional cultures, all kind of showing up in the same place, and their decision on how much they wanted to keep those traditions alive and pass those on to their children, or how much they just wanted to be American, I think is interesting. And I guess, every family has their interesting adaptation of, everyone's got their house rules, their family tradition, and probably some of that comes from their family origins. They do things a specific way because of, their parents, whoever, kind of started that in the family. But yeah, that would be definitely a fun thing to take a look at. Let's see here. Trying to put this into the face of the pumpkin just a little bit. No, I'm not doing that very well. Wait. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. Try this. Yeah, kind of go opposite side. Yeah. Let's see. Do that. Up. Little pumpkin highlighting. Yeah, maybe this whole side can have a little bit of shine. Yeah, because that pumpkin skin is pretty shiny, so maybe that'll come across more here. Wow, so pumpkins. Wow, so yeah, here I'm going, trying to get some drawing done and not saying anything. So let's see what else. Yeah, that's a funny thing, buying a Christmas tree, buying a pumpkin from those little pop-up dealers that show up every year, those farms or whatever that produce those things, and show up with their little places to buy all your holiday goods. Yeah, it's a really funny, unique thing. Yeah, that's right, the seasonal shop, the Halloween store that opens in the abandoned movie theater just for that little bit of time, and then so quickly has to they open in October, and then November 1st they're putting everything on clearance and just trying to unload everything and just bail until next year. That's a very Funny kind of store. Only places with a lot of, you know, bizarre retail spaces I think could handle that kind of thing. A little bit more shine on that pumpkin. Yeah, but that's so funny. I wonder how many other places have, you know, have that extreme surplus of, you know, bizarre coming and going retail, and will have those kind of strange pop-up stores. But that, yeah, the Halloween costume shop where you just see all that garbage rubber mask stuff just shows up and then clears out very fast. All right, let's do this. Yeah, see, talking and drawing. What a... I don't know if I could walk and chew gum either. This is crazy. Okay, so there we go. Okay. Okay, so we've got this kind of going on. I'm just gonna get some shadows on these guys. Kind of make sure it's overall kind of balanced. I think I'm gonna put some flames on the candles so it kind of makes sense. Oh, come on. Too wide. Yeah, I think I've drawn anything red candlesticks for a long time. Glamorous 70s red candlestick. Or I guess it's kind of Christmassy too. All right. Let's see how this is looking. A little bit crazy. And let's try some flames on the candles. And then a little bit here. I'll read. There's my white highlights. I'm gonna put this there. Yeah, there we go. And one more thing. So we're gonna call this candle out, but maybe do a little smoke. Okay, let's see. Get this to look more like smoke. Yeah, so kind of trying to push and pull this, get a little bit more wispy. That's quite a bit of smoke coming off that candle, but it's not going to read otherwise. Maybe a little blur too. Wow. Okay, let's not go crazy. Maybe 20. And we can also kind of pull this up. Yeah, I think that's working. Okay. Yeah, I definitely want it to in front of the pumpkin. Let's see if doing something like this will help. Yeah, maybe that helps. Spray this. That's a lot of smoke coming off of a candle then. Tiny little candle. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't think the white helps anything. Just give it some length so it pulls up in front. Oh, I still don't know about that. What's going on? Oh, I've got 2 layers. So. Okay, let's try. I'm losing it. I don't know about the smoke. Let's try a tiny smoke. Yeah, that might have to do. Yeah, it's just not very funny, or it doesn't look very good going in front of the jack-o'-lantern. Alright, and let's see. This is gonna look, finish this up a little bit graphically. Yeah, so when I get a little too complicated, so I'm putting a face putting a face on everything. Some situations it's a little excessive. I sometimes like the face on the face, you know, 2 faces at the same time. One that's, you know, kind of artificial, and one that's, you know, the character's face, or the, you know, supposed to be there. But yeah, I'm not sure about where this should go. Into the smoke. Yeah, that might work. I don't know, it looks a little strange. All right. Oh, I got a lot of layers here. Okay. We're good. Pull this just a little bit bigger, because this cartoon is pretty small. You know, when it's online, when it's on the web, it's pretty tiny. So drawing stuff bigger gets a little bit more of that detail across. So that helps. Okay. I think we're out of the woods. Now it's the writing part. So yeah, I think I kind of want to talk about this as a, you know, it's one of those sad, silent phenomena that people don't want to talk about during their holiday. But yeah, it's a yeah, I think it's, you know, so a lot of the humor and a lot of these jokes, I'm just kind of taking something kind of mundane or you know, very everyday, and trying to recontextualize it. So you know, something happening in the kitchen or something with food is, you know, treated like a mental illness, or you know, there's some sort of interpersonal conflict, and you know, it's you know, happening between different flavors of salsa or something, just something very simple to yeah, just kind of make fun of those things that people you know, take too seriously, or you know, want big fancy names for, and you know, kind of identify too much with those sorts of things. So lid singeing is what we're at here. Yeah, so you have, you know, seasonal affective disorder, you know, holiday kind of sadness and stuff, but The thing we want to focus on today is the epidemic of lid singeing. Yeah, so let's see. Oh, actually, I think I should maybe duplicate a little bit of that smoke. See how it looks behind this guy. Behind. Let's see. A little bit. Yeah, so let me see if I can get that position. Yeah, that looks okay. Lid singeing, so something to be singed and burned. Roasting pumpkin lid. I don't want to give up my lid singeing phrase. So improper candle length. Produced phenomenon. Improper candle length produced the Halloween disorder, the Halloween problem. The uniquely the uniquely Halloween. I think that's gonna have to go in quotes too. Proper candle length produced the uniquely Halloween phenomenon. Yeah, I think phenomenon is the there's an A in there and not so many N's. Boy, oh boy. I think spell check will catch that, but oh no, there's no A at all. Wow. That's crazy. Phenomenon. Phenomenon. Oh, this language of ours. How do we speak it and spell it? Phenomenon. It's pretty straightforward. All right. So proper candle length produced the uniquely Halloween phenomenon of lid singeing. Oh, all those happy memories. I think I've had a lot of pumpkin smashing, pumpkin rotting jokes, so I think lid singeing is its time has come. All right. Yeah, I don't know if that's quite the right tone, but Yeah, that works. And let's see what spell check here has to say about my wonderful spelling. Hey, we did it. All right, so improper candle length produced the uniquely Halloween phenomenon of lid singeing. Phenomena plural, I hope. All right. Okay, so we've got this, and let's carry this over to here. Let's carry some of this other work over. Whoa, I can't remember where I started. We'll just call it the 50s. And see what's usable here. Boom. Oh goodness, okay, well, we don't want that ugly lid thing anymore. Okay. Alright, so here we'll have a... Oh, there it is. Battlefield of Halloween candy. Alright, let's consolidate the corn here. So that's candy corn. That's not. Or candy bar. Oh, that's right. That's a duplicate of this. That's right. All of the things I started drawing were candy. Candy corn? Candy corn. And mayonnaise. Oh, that's right. This is the first cartoon that didn't start up with a warm-up of a Japanese mayonnaise bottle. Alright. Ah, Smarties. What a great Halloween candy. What a great candy in general. I think that. I'm thinking I don't have a good angle on this package, so it's not going to work. I'm going to put the little cup on top, but I don't think that's going to work. And yes, I've already made all kinds of fun-sized jokes. Little candy bars. So maybe I don't need that, and maybe I don't need the cup. Wherever that peanut butter cup is. Candy corn. Maybe here. There we go. Okay. Everything else kind of come up. The color layer on top. All right. So where is that cup? Yeah, draw things and just kind of scatter them amongst the layers and then have to find them. There she is. All right. A little bit bigger on the cup. Okay. So I think we're just going to do a beautiful Halloween candy still life here. I can get that. Oh, there. There was the orange. Get that orange going a little bit brighter. I'll just start with that color. Fill in. Or maybe that odd not quite orange, well, not quite that color. Kind of that weird, dirty orange toffee color. Peanut butter candy, was it? Peanut butter candy with the wax paper wrapping. A little more yellow. Oh, and actually I think the cup should start out with orange. Nice chocolate color. And that. Oh, it was red and blue. I'll do kind of more pinky red. That's right, a red, that Bazooka Joe color. Maybe some orangey yellow. Whatchamacallit. And a nice pastel for the pastel color. And one more, maybe that dark Snickers Milky Way dark brown. Okay, I think we're pretty good. Oh yeah, so maybe white here, white here. Okay. They were all colored, so now let's go back through and any kind of secondary or highlight colors. Yeah, it was, you know, pretty small. So you can just cut, if you just select that color layer, you can just cut and then, you know, draw straight into there, kind of preserving the preserving your fills. And maybe this one. So now the white tips, so I'm going to go white tip and yellow base. That's my candy corn memory. Yeah, and I don't think anybody put naked candy corn directly into a Halloween bag, but for our purposes, they did. Yeah, I think they usually came in those little packages. Yeah, I think I ate a lot of Brock's. I think Brock's made a lot of candy corn when I was a kid. That cheap candy company. And that was the thing you didn't want to be left with. I would think Halloween definitely had a candy pecking order or a desirability order, and you were foolish like I was, you would eat your favorite and most desirable candy first and leave all the things you hated for the end. So basically your Halloween candy haul was full of horrible ribbon candy and old lady candy, spicy, weird cinnamon things, and all the least popular stuff at the end, and all the good stuff was gone. So let's see, do a couple more kind of color inserts here, but nothing too bright. So here's this label. I should be pulling this in a different position, but I've got the microphone wedged underneath it, so it's not gonna go very well. I'll just try a kind of generic looking label. Something like that. And then the name written right on top. And yeah, let's try to get the white back on the ends here. Oh, of course. What did I just do? Yep. So now I have a 2-row menu, That's lovely. Just get caught. Let's oh, come on. Yay. Okay, and then give me the edge of this again. Damn. Oh well, I guess we're gonna deal with that. Fix that later. Okay, and let's go and draw some more colors in the same kind of range. Some greens in there. I'm just gonna stick with maybe green, yellow, and white. Maybe there's orange too. And yellow, and yellow, and yellow. Oops. That connect. And white. White and white. All right. That's smarty-esque, smarty-ish. Let's do some labels. Okay. Little label writing on the Smarties. I think they had a little bit of this. There we go, and kind of fade that out because it's printed on cellophane. Oh my. What am I going to do with this? Okay. So this is... Whoa. No. Through the middle was white. And I think that the whole end of it was white. Well, we'll try it like that. And then we'll put nice blue. Nice blue, not faded blue, kind of a brighter. Yeah, that kind of bright blue. In bottom and here. I think blue may have been on top, but there we go. That looks bubblegummy. Then we'll do a quick Halloween pattern on the cup. There we go. Maybe fade that out a little bit too. All right, that's looking candy-ish. So let's do some of the shadows and highlights and things. I have to take that pattern off to make it easier to fill. Okay, so now I'm just talking about what I'm doing. That's not very interesting to listen to unless you're looking at what I'm doing. So Halloween. So let me see. I gotta get back into talking about the process or what I'm doing. So this cartoon. Yes, I started this cartoon in 2002. Oof. Yeah, long time ago. So 2002. So yeah, this year 15 years. Wow. Yeah. So this is the 15th birthday of domestic abuse, and it came from I was doing a lot of just Sharpie drawing on paper and just drawing little characters and little things. And I have to go back and actually find this specific drawing. I drew a small styrofoam cup and put a little sad face, two dots for eyes and a little sad face on a styrofoam cup. And that ended up being the inspiration for this entire series. So 15 years later, I'm still drawing those sorts of things. And I just really liked the way that it was a stand-in for so many things. I could talk about kind of melodramatic, silly situations between people, and they were all played out. They had the stand-in of all of these little paper cups, and salt and pepper and ketchup and mustard and everything to kind of stand in as these silly little roles that people played. And there's kind of funny ways that you can the different kind of stereotypes for kind of different gender roles and things you could kind of make fun of with just funny little things around the house that we just associated with certain types of personalities, or things like that. So it all came from just the cuteness, or the what I liked about those sorts of combinations, and how they were very familiar and everyday, and just giving them this weird little voice or this weird little situation, I think was a very entertaining thing to do. And it was very sustainable. Like, as an idea, it had a lot of potential, and I didn't really realize it at the time. I just kind of got stuck doing it, but I could do it over and over and over again and never feel like I kind of hit, okay, that's as far as I can take this, because I just pushed it into office supplies, so people's desks, and just into any kind of situation where people interact with each other and have problems. So whether it's the dinner table or the breakfast table, or your break room at the office, or whatever, there were these places where people had to deal with each other that were the source of conflict or unhappiness. And the little sad little objects gave me the ability to kind of talk about that over and over again with different severity. And the people's relationships between people's relationships with inanimate objects is always kind of funny. People are always angry with their phones, or complaining about blaming a pen or a pencil for not helping them with their work, making things harder for them. I think that's a fun kind of interaction, because I definitely was angry at plenty of inanimate objects in my day. And after you kind of lash out and throw something or break something, you only feel foolish. It's just the most ridiculous feeling afterwards. And so that was fun to kind of tap into, and that the ego and the frustration, and there's just a lot of fun little ideas in there to play with. And so I enjoyed doing that, and it just kept going and going. I just was able to sustain a lot of ideas and a lot of humor from that. And some of it does get really sad. Some of it I was really trying to tap into things that really bothered me, or some pretty deep unhappiness. And so there's a really interesting mixture of things in there, of sadness and just kind of making fun of things. But that's a very interesting thing to look at. I think I've gotten some comments on the website that people are just like asking me, are you okay? or this is really sad. That's like the I don't know, semi-constructive criticism that I've gotten from people is, wow, this is really sad. And, you know, of course that's what I'm kind of making fun of is, you know, how we put ourselves, whatever the ego is, or, you know, whatever it is that fuels our depression. I think in a lot of people, they, if they could just be a little bit more, you know, objective about their place in the world, or just, you know, try a little bit harder to kind of make sense of kind of, you know, who they are and what they should be, you know, what they should be focused on, I think it would make a big difference. And, you know, I'm not trying to trivialize any of that. I know a lot of there's a lot of brain chemistry involved in depression, but I just think that there's also some humor in there. I think, you know, people's egos and people's kind of personality quirks fuel a lot of that. And wow. And so, yeah, so that's where a lot of the idea came from, and just, you know, those sad little things trying to take center stage, or being kind of actors on a stage, was really funny to me. So I wanted to kind of see how far I could take that, and just, yeah, kept going with that idea. Over and over. And yeah, it's been fun to sustain, and there's always, you know, some fun thing to kind of talk about. I think the world never stops giving you, you know, things to criticize, or, you know, at least to play with. Yeah, there's a lot of funny things out there, and a lot of funny things that, you know, our reaction to it, or, you know, how we kind of incorporate these things into our daily lives, does become pretty funny after a point. And yeah, so that's where a lot of the inspiration came from, is just looking at things in daily life, and, you know, how they represented a lot of our, you know, personal defeats or personal tragedy. And you know, maybe we weren't even that aware of it, but if you emphasize that, or kind of point that out, I think it's pretty fun. Oh, let's see here. Yeah, so just finish up some of this shadow. And I've thought about if there is a way, I haven't quite figured it out yet, but if there's a way to kind of take this into animation, or, you know, do some very minor animation, or some kind of, you know, voiceover or something that could make this a more, you know, dynamic, give it this more of a dynamic presentation. But I've never quite figured that out. I haven't quite found a way. I've had a couple of thoughts, but nothing that's ever materialized as far as making this an animated story, or turning some of these interactions into, you know, having a little bit of movement. Because I think, you know, there's a lot of aftermath in a lot of these images. You know, something pretty miserable just happened, and some of that would be fun to try to get across in animation. All right. Okay, so there's our little Halloween candy landscape. There we go. Zoom in on that, and write some jokes. Wow, almost 2 hours. Thank you for enduring this, these my loyal stream viewers. That's great. Hopefully you're doing something constructive while you're listening to this. So in the let's see here, about the landscape. And I don't think I want to start this way. Let me keep thinking about that. So I think this is a candy corn joke. And yeah, let's do the little swirl on top of you. Oh, okay, no sound effects, sorry. There we go, something like that. Let's see. So candy corn. So only one type of Halloween candy was delusional enough to think that it was corn. Where am I going with this? Okay. So let's see. Yeah, I want to talk about the delusion or the misunderstanding, or not misunderstanding, the ego. What's going on? Okay, let's keep thinking about this and put some eyes on some candy. Whoa, all right. I might have to go a little bit smaller. Let's see. That'll work for the big guys. Yeah, maybe a little bit smaller. Yeah, it's usually after doing all the little eyes on things that I really get it really feels like, okay, yeah, this kind of came together. And it's funny because it's always the last thing I do. Usually even, well, yeah, depending, but yeah, sometimes the writing comes after that, but yeah, the little eyes are the kind of last little step. And for some of that, it's fun because the position of things and things not looking at each other or just staring directly at each other, there always sometimes there's a little bit of additional playfulness and or you know, kind of emphasizing the drama or the relationships between these few things really comes out when you know, you show which way they're looking. And it's funny that it very often comes at the end, because sometimes it changes, you know, the emphasis on certain things. I can't see. There we go. The emphasis on certain things, or the position, you know, changes the relationship between certain things. So that's kind of fun. That, you know, puts some of those like last little touches on things, with just those little eyes. And it's always a funny thing to decide if something's going to be frowning or if something has a mouth, because I see that as a, you know, a bigger expression, you know, emotional expression, a bigger mood. So I want to make sure that that's always reinforcing the joke, because you're kind of doing that thing where you look at the drawing, you look at the art, you look at the joke, you look back at the drawing, and hopefully between looking at the reading it, you know, reading the cartoon and then looking back at the artwork for a second time, some little relationship or something has been revealed or something's been made clear, so that can be where the humor is. That's where the laugh is. So you look at it, it might be a cute situation, or there's a funny, there's a hopefully a funny looking drawing. You read the gag, the joke itself, then look back at the art, and that should be, you know, when the joke kind of is reinforced or kind of complemented, you know, by the art. So that's a funny relationship. That's a funny, you know, kind of process. But I always want to, you know, pay attention to that and make sure that I'm making that happen. So, you know, to have a subtle detail or something that you're only going to focus on after you've read what the joke is about or what the relationship is. And so that's always a good thing to kind of keep in mind. You know, where the laugh is. If it's just, oh, that looks funny, or that's cute, or to say some have some, you know, funny phrase or something I don't think is enough. There's always something that you want people to kind of find in the relationship between the joke and the image. And yeah, I mean, this isn't a amazing example of it, but I think that's always how gag cartoons, you know, should function, because you don't have that time element. You're not moving through panels. You're not telling, it's not sequential art, so you're not telling something that spans through time. So it's the only time that you have, the only kind of, you know, way that the reader changes their focus is image, text, image. And so in that kind of exchange, they have to find the relationship, and that's your only opportunity to maybe not show something or not make something clear, clarify it with your writing, and then they go back and see it, and that's when it gets funny, hopefully. But yeah, and it's something, I think, you know, different people's humor, different people's sensibilities, sometimes they're really hard to key into, and I think it's almost a context. You know, getting someone's jokes is almost getting their context, getting, you know, how they look at the world and how they see things, and to, you know, you either agree with that or think it's fun, you think it's entertaining. It may not match your personal views, but you think it's a funny way to look at things. So yeah, I think that's important. And so context for humor is especially important, because when people say rough or cruel or kind of uncaring things, you have to know ultimately that is a caring person, that person doesn't believe that. And that's where a lot of the humor is, that somebody says something ridiculous or offensive or presents you as something that looks very cruel or ugly, but knowing that that's not their real view of the world, that they're just kind of, you know, satirizing or giving you a parody of something, that to make it funny is I think important. So kind of, you know, trusting or believing in creators is a good thing. And I think only, you know, after reading a lot of somebody's work, or yeah, it's only through that kind of relationship that you start to trust people. So it's a little hard. I think, you know, people have been disillusioned by some of their, you know, favorite creators, when now that you have access to them on Twitter and Facebook and things, you hear their political views or whatever, and it turns you off, because I think you, having this idea, you understand their context, you understand what kind of person they are. If they then express these you know, really uncaring or strange views online, that kind of can shatter a little bit of that trust or that context that you thought you had, so that, you know, I know he's kidding, you know, makes the humor more comfortable. And when you maybe find out, wow, he isn't kidding, he actually is taking this a whole different way, I think that's a little bit upsetting. But without giving people the benefit of the doubt too, that they're starting from, you know, a decent thinking position, I think that prevents you from taking, you know, bad jokes or maybe clumsy jokes or ugly jokes too far, and you know, kind of being offended by them. Yeah, that's a whole other, being offended, I think, is a whole other topic. But yeah, I think people are losing that that idea, the you know, wanting to trust what people are saying and kind of let your guard down and be entertained, and basically know that, you know, it's for fun. You know, they're doing it to make you laugh, and that it's not, you know, part of some agenda or some manifesto that they're trying to indoctrinate you into. It's a strange thing. I think you know, people expressing kind of deeper thinking or more kind of intimate ideas always has that danger of letting people yeah, think about it in the wrong way, or be a little bit confused by what you're saying. But I think the trust, it's just important to trust people and know that, you know, hopefully everyone's coming from a good place, and it's not yeah, there's not if it's mean-spirited, it's mean-spirited tongue in cheek, you know. I think that's a important way to think about anything that's trying to be funny, because it is kind of ridiculous. So we were talking recently about the tradition of clowns, and how the role of the court jester was important, because it was that, you know, the jester was the only person that could kind of speak truth to power and kind of, you know, make fun or mock the king, or mock, you know, people of power or authority. And it was the only voice that could kind of point out, you know, the folly or the kind of misguided or ridiculous situations. But at the same time, you couldn't push that too far. You couldn't cross a certain line, because in your status, you didn't have any protection. You know, if somebody was genuinely offended or genuinely resented you making them look foolish, you know, ultimately you were doing it for the benefit of the kingdom or of the people. But if someone personally took offense, you know, jesters had no recourse if they were physically assaulted. You know, that no one was going to get arrested for beating a jester. And I thought that's a very interesting idea. And that's kind of how, you know, the line that the comedy and humor has always served, is that it needs to go right up to that line and just illuminate, or, you know, make you, you know, realize certain things, but it can't go too far, because it ultimately is just and fun. And if it doesn't do that, if it goes beyond, if it oversteps its bounds, then people are just going to see it as cruel or mocking or you know, very mean spirited, and become offended and see it as an attack. So it has to be right on that line. And you know what I mean, you know what I mean, you know, you get it, you know, you have to really have that kind of connection with an audience or whoever you're speaking to, and they have to trust that, you know, you have the best intentions for the, you know, the group ultimately, and what you're saying or what you're trying to emphasize is either just to relieve people's stress and make them laugh, or to point something out that is ridiculous, and, you know, hopefully people will rethink, or, yeah, kind of put in a different context. But yeah, that's a funny role. So I'm sitting here, not writing, just talking, and so we're making a candy corn joke. That's some really misshapen candy corn. Although you do get, in a bag of maybe low quality inspected candy corn, you do get a lot of fused and deformed pieces, because yeah, I think they fall out of that mold pretty malleable and can get fused together pretty easy. Of all the candy, of all the types of candy, only one I can't find this joke. Oh, and that's the other thing. Candy corn, stale candy corn becomes rock hard. I guess maybe certain cheap kinds of it, but whatever that is that holds all that sugar together, wow, if you let that dry out, it sure turns into a unchewable mess. Yeah, if you've ever made the mistake of around Easter dipping back into that Halloween candy stash and trying to eat some candy corn, I'm sure you have regretted it. All right. Okay, so candy corn in context of the larger Halloween candy population. See, I need to distill this idea down to a small phrase. I think everything that I've come up with is a short paragraph. But yeah. Hmm. The other thing that candy corn always reminds me of, and I think like especially when you're a kid missing teeth, you can kind of jam it into those holes in your head to simulate your teeth, but it does look like missing teeth, so it just reinforces the fact that maybe you don't want to eat too much of this, because the next thing you're going to be looking at is your teeth out of your head, just like that. Let's see. All right, so a lot of this is a painful process. So, it was only... no, that's the wrong tone. See, that's another interesting thing when you're coming up with an idea for a series or a group of something, is you kind of, just like in a movie or a television show or a comic book story, you kind of make up rules to your universe. You kind of have to give people something they can rely on, something that, this is the restrictions, this is what happens in this world, and there's not going to be flying cars and there's not going to be dinosaurs, and you kind of give them some limitation and let them know how things work narratively. And I think that there's a similar thing in joke writing and humor and stuff, and that's something I've tried to make rules about what I will and won't write, like the kind of tone of the writing, but also like certain things you won't do. Like I don't write a question. Like I don't use the gag is never a question, although a lot of the jokes I think first come to me as kind of a question or a funny idea that, don't you think, huh, have that kind of tone to it. And I don't think that's I don't think that's good. So you kind of come up with these ways to restrict yourself and kind of give a recognizable voice and tone to the jokes that you write. And I've tried to do that with a lot of these. I think occasionally I break my own rules when I really like an idea or something, but you often so in these jokes in this world, like the existence of people, it's obviously assumed, but you only see evidence of like maybe people's interaction with certain things, with certain inanimate objects, but that is kind of explained maybe in another way, or they have a way that they kind of rationalized, why they're crushed up and thrown away, or why they're, emptied containers, or why people cut coupons out of them, or whatever. So there is human interaction, but it's not anything direct. I'm never going to draw hands, in a cartoon doing something. It's always just the objects themselves and the way the interaction between each other and with the world, so the interaction of people is kind of, a stand-in for what the world does to you. The world uses you up, the world empties you out, the world throws you away, the damage you take. That's people interacting with these objects. But for the sake of most of the humor, a lot of the times I'm the role of the world is people's interaction with these things. So kind of like one step below that. All right, enough talk. Let's finish this joke. Without the presence of candy corn, the presence of candy corn just made the whole group feel more like Halloween candy. Right, right, because you can eat most of this candy all year round, and it is usually just those few telltale pieces of themed candy, like candy corn, that gives you the context of the holiday, right? So you know that the candy is very old. If you are looking at candy corn in April, you know that it's probably come from a long time ago. Yeah, I think that'll work. Presence of candy corn just made the whole group feel more like Halloween candy. Is that phrasing okay? I don't want to get too wordy, because I think already, if I can write a single line, that always feels good. I always feel like that is a nice solid idea, and I've come up with something very concise. And so 2 lines, and then when I want to keep adding more to 2-line jokes, it feels like it's not that good, it's not that strong. I need to explain it too much within the joke. Presence of candy corn just made the whole group feel that much more like Halloween candy. No, I think they just feel more like Halloween candy, because basically they're not. They're just random pieces of gum and things. Yeah, just made the whole group feel that much more. Okay, let's see. The presence of candy corn just made the whole group feel that much more like Halloween candy. I have to do it. Feel that much more like Halloween candy. Oh, that's a really long one, but I think it needs that. The presence of candy corn just made the whole group feel that much more like Halloween candy. All right, because you have the thematic paper cup, so there we go. Oh boy, I can't believe that. So we're 2 hours of listening to me do this. Amazing. You should be proud of yourselves for surviving this long. And there we have another Halloween themed cartoon. Okay, so the presence of candy corn just made the whole group feel that much more like Halloween candy, and proper candle length produced the uniquely Halloween phenomena of lid singeing. Wow. Well, thank you very much for sticking with me. I hope you got done whatever you're doing, grouting the bathtub or whatever whatever you were up to while listening to this, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.